like, whoa, because I'd never heard anyone say that before. So I had to think about it for a second. But then I was just like, I go, well, no wonder the world's so fucked up, huh? And Cam laughed, shaking his head at me before getting in his car. It was cold, and I was like, ugh, totally nipping out, completely covered in goosebumps. But I still waited until he honked and turned around before I went back inside and closed the door. Except then, all I could do was lean against our front door, rattling it with my fists and screeching, hee. Seriously. I just stood there, leaning my back against the door before I slid down to the ground, laughing. Because I could still hear Cam's voice. I could still hear him and feel him next to me from when we were in my room, before he left. We were in bed and he was there, but he wasn't there. I don't know where he was. Cam was so spaced out all afternoon, and I could even feel it in his body, you know? So finally I had looked up and I said, "Where are you?" He was staring at my ceiling, and he nodded, smiling, and he said, "I was just thinking how, when I was a kid, we used to have this telescope, and every night before bed, my dad would show me the stars, explain about planets and gravity and light. Those were my bedtime stories," he said. "And I'll never forget the time Dad told me that given the incredible distance light must travel, any star I saw shining in the sky might actually be dead. So right away I said, 'But then, how do you know we're alive, Dad? Doesn't it work both ways? What if there are stars looking at us, thinking the same thing right now?' I didn't understand why, but my dad was so proud of me. He told my mom what I said at dinner. That night, he got this idea, because I always hated going to bed. I used to kick and scream every night at bedtime. So the next day, my dad put these glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling. 'Remember that star wallpaper, Thea?' he said, and I nodded my head yes. I never had it, but I remember it. And Cam said, after he hung up the Milky Way, the first night tucking me in, my dad said not to tell anyone, not even my mom, because I had the secret of the whole universe right on my ceiling, where no one would ever think to look, except me. It made me smile listening to him, because Cam never really talked about his family, so I kept quiet, hoping he'd keep talking, and he did. He said, from then on, my mom never had to force me to go to bed again, because I could look at my stars all night. I did, too. They used to keep me up at night, he said, kissing the top of my head. Because stars make me think about time, and time made me want to learn about physics and math. And once I found math, he said, his muscles tensing beneath me, I had to bite my tongue because he was on such a roll, and I didn't want him to stop talking when he said, "Who's to say that time is any one thing? Who's to say that time moves in any one direction, and that the only direction is forward? What if time isn't one thing, but many, Thea? What if time is plural, and time can move forward and backward? What if there are two times moving forward and backward simultaneously, like two men in a duel? Think about it. What if time can play tricks on itself, sneak up on itself? Ghost time," he said. "What's that?" I said, and he said, "That's what I call it. The equation I'm working on. Ghost time." I had my head on his chest, looking at his skin, so white, such perfect skin. And then I looked up and said, "Cam?" I felt him snap back like a rubber band, and he looked down at me. I said, "Tell me this isn't what you think about when we're having sex. Ghost time?" He started laughing, making my head